Sarah first saw him in the produce aisle, examining an avocado with the intensity of a heart surgeon. His dark curly hair fell charmingly across his forehead as he turned the green fruit over in his hands, seemingly oblivious to the world around him. She wasn't normally the type to approach a stranger, but something about his quirky concentration drew her in. Before she could second-guess herself, Sarah found herself standing next to him. "Finding any good ones?" she asked lightly, gesturing to the pile of avocados. Startled, he looked up, and Sarah was struck by his bright blue eyes behind dark-rimmed glasses. He smiled, and her heart gave a little lurch. "Not yet, but I'm hopeful," he replied, his voice warm. "I'm Jack, by the way." "Sarah," she responded, holding out her hand. When his fingers met hers, she felt a little jolt of electricity. They chatted easily as they continued their shopping, winding up next to each other again in the bakery section. "I know it's forward of me," Jack said, rubbing the back of his neck, "but would you maybe want to grab a coffee sometime?" Sarah hesitated for only a moment before surrendering to the voice in her head shouting yes. She typed her number into his phone, her fingers trembling slightly. That first coffee date turned into a second, then a third. They discovered a shared love of foreign films, used bookstores, and walks in the park on crisp autumn days. Jack worked as a software engineer but dreamed of becoming a published sci-fi author. Sarah taught second grade and volunteered at the local animal shelter on weekends. As the weeks turned into months, they fell into an easy routine together: Sunday brunches, Thursday night trivia at their favorite pub, lazy afternoons reading side by side on Jack's couch. Sarah had never felt so comfortable, so herself, with anyone before. "I love you," Jack whispered one night as they lay curled together under a quilt, the credits of When Harry Met Sally playing on the TV. Sarah's breath caught. She had known she loved him for a while now, carrying the precious feeling like a secret gem in her heart. Hearing him say the words aloud made joyful tears spring to her eyes. "I love you too," she whispered back, pulling him closer. "So much." Life continued on, beautiful in its simple pleasures. Jack's novel sold to a publisher, fulfilling his lifelong dream. They celebrated with champagne and pancakes for dinner, giddy with excitement. On Sarah's 30th birthday, Jack surprised her with a kitten from the shelter where she volunteered, a tiny orange tabby with huge green eyes. They named him Oliver, and he quickly became the third member of their little family. 4 years to the day after their first meeting in the grocery store, Jack proposed. He took Sarah back to that fateful produce aisle and got down on one knee next to the avocados, pulling out a glittering diamond ring. Sarah laughed and cried all at once as she said yes, pulling Jack up into her arms and kissing him deeply, not caring about the bemused looks from other shoppers. They married in a small ceremony in Sarah's parents' backyard, surrounded by sunflowers and tearful smiles from family and friends. Sarah wore her grandmother's lace wedding dress, and Jack blinked back tears as she walked down the grassy aisle toward him. "You look so beautiful," he said hoarsely as she reached him, taking her hands in his. "I can't believe I get to be yours forever." "Forever," Sarah echoed, her heart full to bursting. "I promise." The first few years flew by in a happy blur. They bought a small house near the school where Sarah taught and christened every room with laughter and lovemaking. Jack published a sequel to his book that became a surprise bestseller. They attended a release party in New York City and danced together on the rooftop of their hotel. City lights spread out below them like fallen stars. In the midst of such joy, the first cracks appeared without warning. Sarah was late, then later still. 3 pregnancy tests confirmed what they had only recently begun to hope for. A baby was on the way. They delighted in choosing tiny onesies and painting the nursery a soothing mint green, their minds dizzy with visions of the future. Jack read parenting books aloud as Sarah dozed with her head in his lap, one hand resting on the curve of her belly. Then came the news at the 20-week ultrasound that tilted their world on its axis. "There's no heartbeat," the technician said gently, sorrow etched on her face. "I'm so sorry." Sarah felt numb as sobs racked Jack's body next to her. This couldn't be happening, not to them, not to their much-loved baby. The doctor assured them it wasn't anything they did, that sometimes these things just tragically happen with no rhyme or reason. Sarah went through the motions of the dilation and curettage procedure, letting Jack handle the details of the funeral. They buried their son, who they named Liam, on a rainy Tuesday under a polished granite headstone far too small to be real. Grief settled over them like a shroud, an oppressive third presence in their home. Sarah took bereavement leave from her teaching job and spent hours sitting in the nursery, staring at the walls. Jack disappeared into his writing, spending long days locked in his office. They orbited around each other like ghosts, rarely colliding. The easy intimacy they once shared felt distant, unreachable. Too stubborn or afraid to reach out, they drifted further apart, islands of sorrow unto themselves. Until one day, nearly a year after losing Liam, it all became too much. Sarah found Jack on the back patio, staring up at a pale sliver of moon. She sat down next to him, noticing the silver in his dark hair she had never seen before. "I miss you," she said simply, her voice cracking on the words. Jack turned to her, his blue eyes swimming with unshed tears. "I miss you too. God, Sarah, I'm so sorry. Sorry I haven't been here, that I've left you alone in this." "I'm sorry too," she whispered. "I'm sorry I pushed you away. I didn't know how to do this, how to keep loving with so much pain." Jack pulled her into his arms and they clung to each other, crying in deep, anguished gasps. The anger and distance of the past months fell away as they grieved together for the first time, truly letting each other in. They talked until the sun rose, sharing memories of the brief time they had with their son, the flutter of his kicks, the hopes and dreams they had wrapped up in his existence. It was both excruciating and also the first time either of them had felt anything akin to healing. In the weeks that followed, they began finding their way back to each other. Sarah returned to teaching, re-engaging with the world bit by bit. Jack started writing again, but kept more regular hours. They had dinner together each night and took walks around their neighborhood, noticing the first green buds of spring poking up through the earth. The ache of Liam's absence never left, but it felt more bearable with the buffer of their love. On the anniversary of his due date, they visited his grave and promised him they would keep living, keep loving in his honor. As they walked away hand in hand, Sarah felt the warmth of the sun on her face, almost like an embrace from the beyond. Life slowly regained a sense of normalcy, shot through with hard-earned resilience. They attended grief counseling together and found solace in helping other bereaved parents. Sarah and Jack celebrated 4 years of marriage and added another kitten to their family, a rambunctious tabby to keep Oliver company. They knew Liam couldn't be replaced, that there would always be a missing piece in the puzzle of their lives. But they also knew their hearts were big enough to expand with more love, that giving Liam a sibling would not diminish his place in their family. When those 2 pink lines appeared on the pregnancy test, Sarah felt both joy and trepidation. Jack hooped and scooped her up in a spinning hug, happy tears tracking down his cheeks. This pregnancy was colored with more anxiety, each ultrasound and kick fraught with barely suppressed terror that it could all disappear. They made it to that pivotal 20-week appointment and wept with relief when a strong, steady heartbeat filled the room. Annie came into the world on a snowy January morning, wailing with the lusty cries of a healthy newborn. Sarah clutched her daughter to her chest, laughing through her sobs as Jack pressed kisses to both of their heads. "Look what we made," he said in wonder, running a finger down Annie's downy cheek. "Look at this perfect miracle." As they watched Annie grow and change over the following months, Sarah felt the fabric of their family mending itself back together. Liam's absence was still present, but stitched now into the quilt of their love in a way that only made it stronger and richer. Sarah and Jack made a point to keep his memory alive, telling Annie all about the brother she would never get to meet on Earth. They took her to his grave, taught her to gently trace the letters of his name on the stone. Slowly, amazingly, happiness took root in their hearts again. It was a different happiness than before the loss, more fragile and fiercely earned, but happiness all the same. They cherished each simple moment all the more for knowing how fleeting it all could be. First steps and first words, messy family dinners and sleepy nighttime snuggles. Jack published another book, this one dedicated to both of his children. The inscription read, "For Liam, whose brief life taught me the depths of love, and for Annie, who brought the light back in. Sarah framed the page and hung it in their living room, a daily reminder of what they had survived together. The year Annie turned 3, Sarah chaperoned her first field trip to a local farm famous for their pumpkin patch. As she watched her daughter gleefully pluck a tiny pumpkin from the vine and cradle it to her chest, Sarah felt a wave of gratitude so profound it nearly brought her to her knees. This messy, painful, beautiful life of theirs was such a gift. All the sorrow, all the joy, all the mundane moments in between, it was theirs, knitted together with love and grit and the grace to keep going. That night, after tucking Annie into bed, Sarah found Jack on the back patio in the spot that had become theirs over the years. She smiled at the silver threaded liberally through his dark curls now, at the lines etched deeper around his eyes. Sitting down next to him, she took his hand and twined their fingers together. His skin was softer now, the calluses from his pen worn smooth. He squeezed her fingers and met her gaze, the fading sun glinting off his glasses. "Remember when you asked me to coffee?" Sarah asked softly, her lips curving. "I had no idea then how important you would become to me, how much life we would share." Jack lifted their joined hands to his mouth, brushing his lips across her knuckles. "I had a feeling," he said, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "The very best one of my life." Sarah scooted closer, leaning her head on his strong shoulder. In front of them, the sky slowly deepened from orange to purple, the first glimmers of starlight appearing overhead. They sat together in comfortable silence, breathing in the dusk-cooled air. The breeze carried with it the faint scent of pumpkin from the lone jack-o'-lantern Annie had insisted they carve together earlier. The candle flickering inside it was the only thing not of nature in their little yard, and Sarah found herself wondering idly how long it would burn, how long any light could hold out against the gathering darkness. But then again, she knew better than most that light, and love, could endure in the face of unimaginable loss and pain, that even in the deepest black of grief, an ember still smoldered, waiting for the kindling of hope to reignite it. She and Jack were living proof of that, their marriage a testament to the power of holding each other in both sorrow and joy. Their love a light passed carefully between them through every season. As the last of the daylight slipped away, Sarah reached up to cup Jack's face in her palm. He turned to her, question in his gaze, but she just smiled. "It's nothing," she murmured. "I just wanted to remember this, right here, you and me and a perfect fall evening." Jack's eyes softened, catching her meaning. He leaned in, his nose grazing hers right before their lips met in a sweet, familiar caress. When they parted, Sarah kept her eyes closed a moment longer, imprinting it all on her memory. Then together they stood, hands still clasped, and went inside to the warmth and light of home.